I'm Corbitt Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, October the 27th, brought to you in part by Gamrazine, product you may not have heard of. It's by Bimeda. It's the first and only bioequivalent of Zactran. It's fast, it's efficient, it's convenient, cost effective, like all of Bimeda's products. It comes with a fair upfront price and no gimmicks. For more information on Gamrazine, go to BimedaUS.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. Another big sale for them here for their regular Monday feeder cattle auction. They're expecting 6,500 head. It's going to start at 6:30 in the morning. Talked to Mark Harmon, my buddy there, and he said they had about 4,000 in there Sunday afternoon when he was by the yards, and looked like lots of loads of yearlings. He said all the big traps outside where they put the big strings of yearlings, he said they were full. So, but there'll be a lot of light calves in there in every class. They always have a good test of every class. Said there'd been some rain around there the last couple of days, so it had calmed the dust a little bit. But the next special cow sale is going to be Thursday, November the 6th at 4:30 in the afternoon, so be sure and put that on your calendars there. But for more information about anything going on there, go to JoplinStockyards.com, and of course you can view and bid all of their sales at Joplin on DVAuction.com. Hang on to your Wranglers. Man, it was a tough week last week. Starting middle of the week, we just had a lot of unneeded drama in your cattle industry. The market suffered for it. I think maybe our image as an industry suffered for it. I don't think we're done with it. I think we've got more to come. So I think it's going to be a tough week this week. All of a sudden, your beef and cattle industry kind of seems to have a target on it, and they won't stop messing with us. They won't leave us alone and let us go on. Tell you what, it's it started there middle of last week when we heard Trump say that beef was too high. Of course, they're asking him a jillion questions every time he gets in front of the camera, and he talks about everything. But he said beef was too high, and he thought maybe we would start importing more beef from Argentina to try to get the beef prices lower. The industry's saying, beef is not that high, in consideration and in comparison with all these other products that are not as wholesome, it's not nearly as high. And, where they're standing back here saying that stuff, and meanwhile a bunch of people that are supposed to be spokesmen for the industry, apparently they didn't know that we were importing beef from other countries. Right? We've been importing beef from other countries for a long, long time. But then on Friday, we come back in, and Trump had some meetings with some cattle industry leaders there, and they tried to play hardball with him, and they said he needed to walk back the statement he said about Argentina and importing more beef from them, and that if he didn't take that back, they were not going to show up to an announcement by the Secretary of Agriculture to help vitalize the cattle industry that he had invited them to on Friday. And so he didn't walk it back, and they didn't show up, and it pissed him off. He enraged. He sent a tweet out that pretty much pissed everybody in the cattle business off, and it was insulting. He said he loved the cattlemen, but he said they just don't understand that this market that they're enjoying is all because of him and his tariffs, which is wrong. It's totally wrong. Market was here before the tariffs come in, and we were getting better without all that. And anyways, it was just kind of a bad thing. But when he put out that tweet, the board just immediately locked down the limit, similar to how it had done it on Wednesday whenever he said he was going to import more beef from Argentina. So we had 2 big sell-off days there. Basically, most of your feeder board locked down the limit. That's a toll, guys. It was very, very frustrating for the industry. Surprisingly, those cattle industry leaders did not make him come to his knees because he's used to dealing with, President Putin and Xi and some kind of bad dudes that have a lot of nuclear weapons. But their threats didn't make him shake. And so he ended up putting a scar on the cattle industry as far as he is concerned. Now, I was out in Nevada at Nevada Livestock Marketing Special Feeder Cattle Sale over the weekend. And of course, Jack Payne, the owner and operator there, he was at Washington, D.C. too, and he went out there to go to that announcement that the other folks didn't attend. So when he got there, they still treated him real nice. He got to speak with a bunch of Trump's higher-ups and got to speak with Trump for quite a few minutes there, more than I thought. And he did represent us well. And don't think after the sale there on Friday night, there wasn't a bunch of us sitting around the sale barn cafe sipping on some buckskins, wanting to hear every little morsel of detail of what happened in the Oval Office and in the Lincoln Room with Jack Payne. And he got to talk to Secretary Kennedy, and we wanted to hear all about what he was saying, and of course Secretary Rawlins, and it was very interesting to hear all that story. But I tell you what, we didn't have a good weekend even after that. All of your auctions that we held late last week and over the weekend were sharply lower, including the one we were at in Fallon, Nevada. Fallon, Nevada had one of their first big special feeder cattle sales for the season. We were disappointed in the market. It still set 43 barn records in all-time history there of the highest priced cattle ever. I mean, guys still sold cattle way higher than they'd ever done it before, but the market was just lower. They had 3-weight steers that averaged $546 on all of them, with the highest price we saw on the 3-weights was $635. The 4-weight steer calves had an average price of $474, with the top price on them of $565, and the 5-weights averaged $435, with a top price on them of $508. You see the others there listed, but tell you what, there was other stuff that went on through the weekend. We're still talking about Mexican border. We still got the Mexican Ag Minister coming in to speak with Secretary Rawlins. I don't know. There's been a lot of people give different views on what they think needs to happen before we let cattle from Mexico back across the border. But it's gonna hit the board hard, and it's gonna hit our market hard when they finally say that they're gonna do it. And I still think that Secretary Rawlins is going to push that off, because she doesn't feel that the screwworm deal is good enough to open that back up. But I think she will probably set a date to when we're going to do it. I'm thinking she will probably set a date like early next year or something like that. Also, the screwworm is not nearly as active, and there's not much of a problem if you have temperatures under 45 degrees, and it'll be like that most of the time down there where most of the cattle cross at Santa Teresa there before too long. So I'm thinking she's probably going to set a date. If she makes that announcement, expect more limit down markets. We've just seen this board run up so high now. And I remember back in 2014 when they pulled the rug out from under the board, he said, well, why did it go down so much? Because it had a long ways to go down. And I think this one is overinflated and probably has a long ways to go down too. But the heck of it is, we don't have any more cattle, and we can't invent more. And we've got to keep heifers back before we're going to get any more production out of them. And likely it's going to be 3 years before we get any production out of them. We might see a little more imports, but just like we were talking, if if Argentina imports all the beef they're talking about raising it to import, it comes out to about 0.5% of our production. And they were getting all excited about it, and people were, you know, making videos that had never made one and stuff, talking about Argentina beef. It wasn't enough to make a difference, and it wasn't enough to cause a big stink, and I wished it had never happened. You know, we're used to having Mexican cattle in our Texas feedlots. Texas feedlots are sitting empty right now. That's part of the reason the market's so high. But eventually they're going to open that border to Mexico, and the cattle are going to start coming across. And I would say it'll probably be in the hard winter months here coming up. But we haven't seen an announcement on that yet. But also we got more announcements. Trump's been making all kinds of deals, bigger deals than with the cattle guys. Big deals like with China on trade and about rare earth elements and trade that's going to affect this country and the world for forever. And he's also been talking with the president of Brazil, and I think he's worked out some kind of a trade deal with them. I think he's worked out a trade deal with China. I think all of this stirred in a big pot is going to start opening up or lowering trade barriers to beef from Brazil. And Brazil does have a lot of beef. A lot. Now that would be one place that we've been getting it that has a lot of beef. Now let's see if the beef establishment members raise as big a stink about opening Brazil or lowering the tariffs and the barriers on Brazil beef as they did Argentina. Because Brazil, that's home base to two of our big four packers. I don't think they're going to want to agitate them, and they probably won't say a lot about it, but we'll see. But that will be interesting going on forward, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a big week of continued drama. Hang on to your Wranglers. This is going to get tough. Some of you that are still hedged up, cattle in the feed yard, are going to get margin back. The rest of you, if you're wanting to get hedged, you better grab a hold of something early, because it's going to go lower. But in the whole scheme of things, after it all levels out here after a few weeks or months, the cattle market's still going to be good, because we don't have that many cattle and they can't invent them. They got a big sale coming up here on Monday in Faith, South Dakota. It's going to start likely before you see this video. It's going to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. They got a calf and yearling special. Not a whole lot of consignments of yearlings, but they'll get started on them first, sell those yearlings, and then here comes a stampede of the fanciest calves you've ever seen in western South Dakota there. They got huge consignments. Elsher's got 500 black baldy calves weighing 4 to 5 1/4 coming in there. Weisinger's got 500 head of Charlene black calves weighing 450 to 550 going to be coming in there. Triple S Ranch has got 400 head of black steer calves weighing 5 1/2 to 6 1/2 coming in there. Berkland's got 400 head of black calves, mostly steers, coming in there weighing 5 to 6 1/4, and just countless other huge strings of ranch raised calves there, guys. Most all of them over 100 head, 200 to 250 head. The consignments is real popular, but they got a lot of calves. I mean, and if you need some fancy ones, most of them won't be weaned, but they will have had their shots, guys. But get on to DVAuction.com, view and bid Faith Livestock Auction in Faith, South Dakota. It's a big, big sale, guys. Let's talk about your board on Friday and all of last week here. October live cattle futures. Monday up 160, Tuesday up 182. Everything's fine, nothing's going to happen. And then we start seeing all that stuff I was telling you about at the beginning of this report. Wednesday down 462 on October live cattle. Thursday down 67. Friday down 597. At the end of the week, your October live cattle futures ended 233.75. A nice basis now for the basis lovers, but that was down 650 for the week. December live cattle futures ended the week at 233.92, down 7.90. Now feeder cattle futures for October, Monday up $1, Tuesday down 2 cents. It's just going to be another fine, wonderful week. Wednesday down 7.85, and your back months were locked down the limit. Thursday was down 172. Friday down 9.05. Not quite the limit, but most of the other traded months was locked down the limit. October feeder cattle ended the week at 354.30. That was down 17.65. Your November contracts were down 350.220, down 19.50. Your grains, corn, new crop December ended the week at 423.25. That was up 3/4 cent for the week. November beans ended the week at 1041.75, up 22.5 cents here, right in the middle of harvest. And hard red winter wheat for December ended the week at 501.5, up 10 cents a bushel. Your fat cattle trade last week, up through Thursday, we had only traded 16,900. We traded most of the cattle on Friday after your packers could take full advantage of all the drama that had happened and your sharply lower board. But up through Thursday, like I said, sold nearly 17,000 in your major negotiated trade areas. Your fat steers and heifers ranged in price from 236 to 240, unevenly steady to $1 lower. This is just through Thursday. Weighted average on live steers was 239.03, down 79 cents compared to the previous week's weighted average. Dress sales ranged from 368 to 373. That was $2 to $5 lower. Your dress steer weighted average was 370.41, down 202. But then we sold the cattle on Friday, and gates pretty well swung. Be a good sized movement there on a hard down market, guys, because people are scared. They don't know how much worse it's going to be. Packers need to get some cattle around them, so they were aggressive in there buying them at lower prices, and that's what happened. Iowa sold 16,600. They sold 24,200 for the week. Live price in Iowa on Friday was 232 to 239. Dressed was 367 to 372. Nebraska sold 17,100 head, 22,850 for the week. Live price on Nebraska on Friday was 235 to 239, and dressed was 365 to 370. Basically, your live steers were $2 to $3 lower from mostly 237 to 238, and dress prices $2 to $5 lower from 367 to 370 for the most part. Kansas sold 4,700. They sold 6,200 for the week. Live price on Friday in Kansas was 236 to 240, but mostly 238. Dress price 370. Texas sold 1,100 on Friday, 3,100 for the week. One live price there at 238, and in the Southern Plains that was $2 lower. Box beef cutout values gained quite a bit of ground. It's kind of funny. The politics had a big showing about how we need to get beef prices lower, but we still want the cattle people to be able to make a good living. So we love the ranchers. We want to support the ranchers and all this, but we got to get beef lower for the consumers. So had all this drama and all this stink, and at the end of last week, your beef was higher and your cattle were sharply lower. So how'd that work? Okay, choice box beef cutouts. Your weighted average on all of last week's trades, 372.13, up 659. And by the end of the week, Friday afternoon, it was at 375.76, 367 higher than the weighted average. So how'd that work? Your select sales, all of last week's sales, weighted average 354.47, up 474. And your late Friday sales of select cuts, 357.97, up another 3.5 from that weighted average. Your choice select spread on the weighted average was $17.66, and all that information on 617 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter last week, total estimated slaughter was 573,000, 6,000 more than last week, so that was encouraging, but still 52,000 less than the same week a year ago. Let's talk about what else is going on. Ferapeace is the revolutionary product that is scientifically proven, guys. It's a topical product. You put it on their muzzle and on their pole, and it calms them down. It's magic. And everybody thought it was as angel dust, but everybody that tries it can't believe how well it works. And if you haven't tried it, you must be the only one, because it only costs $3 a dose, and it makes so much difference when you're doing anything with your cattle. Anything that applies stress to your cattle, you give them Ferapeace, and it's easier on them. When it's easier on them, you don't see as much shrink, you don't see as much stress. The cattle eat and drink and get over being weaned, and shipping them and moving them around and handling them doesn't bother them as much. It is quickly becoming one of the main protocol whenever you're telling people, you know, what have these calves had, and you said they've had it all. Ferapeace is one of the main things in that protocol that most buyers would like to see those cattle have. And a lot of these newer, more modern sale barns will have a screen up when the string of cattle comes in that'll tell you what those cattle have had, which shots, which vaccinations and everything, how they were wormed. And a lot of times it'll say Ferapeace on there too. And you just know those cattle are going to be calmer to handle. But I tell you what, also if you're AIing heifers this fall, you know, use that Ferapeace all over those heifers' head. Don't cost nothing. And you can count on a conception rate in the 90s, where a lot of times it'd be in the 70s or maybe lower. For more information, go to ferapeace.com. Let's talk about what else is going on in your feeder cattle market. Brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood there right across the highway from Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. Your real-time index from DVAuction ended the week last week based on an 800-pound cash auction steer. It ended the week last week at $364.15. That was down $10.46 for the week per hundredweight, guys. That's a big dump there. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index ended the week at 367.08, but it's a little bit behind. So it'll be dropping some more as soon as it comes out here to start this week. All classes of feeder cattle and calves last week in your big fall run sales, $5 to $15 lower. Spots $20 to $30 lower throughout. A lot of times last week they just called the market sharply lower, because I know those market reporters hate to go over $10. But look at some of your sales, and I picked out the best ones, and they're not as bright and fancy as they've been, but that's as good as we've got right now. So big sale we had last week up in Winter, South Dakota at Winter Livestock Auction. It's a new DVAuction broadcasting barn there. They had a big sale. The prices were lower. They're not a reported market by Federal State Market News, but they are market reported here by your NationalBeefWire and DVAuction and Feeder Flash. So they were your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Livestock Handling Equipment. Stick out sale of the day. You look at these automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see they had 267 head of 4-weight steers. They averaged 464 with a weighted average price of $517.10. 956 head of the 5-weight steers averaged $546 with a weighted average price of $489.22. And 731 head of the 6-weight steers averaged $631 at $447.64. Look at your heifers. There were 309 head of the 4-weight heifers, averaged $454 at $443.44, and 724 head of your 5-weight heifers averaged $546 at $452.95 on the weighted average. Give you some individual quotes that were impressive all around the circuit there. How about St. Onge Livestock in St. Onge, South Dakota? It was heifers that impressed me most out of there. on Friday. How about 128 head of fancy heifer calves weighing 477, bring 480. Pretty impressive. Where I was at on Friday last week, Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. They sold 66 steers, weighed 576 for 450. How about Winter, South Dakota individual quote, 105 head of steers, weighed 601 at 481. That's about the most impressive calf quote I saw late last week or over the weekend. And then Fort Pierre Livestock Auction in Fort Pierre, South Dakota sold 105 lighter steers, weighed 426 at 586. I don't know how much longer we'll see those, but how about a big yearling quote, guys? The most impressive quote that I saw late last week or over the weekend in your macros and no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Lexington, Nebraska at the Lexington Livestock Market. It was 240 yearling steers in one swath that weighed 897 pounds and bring 370. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.